You know what old Jack Burton always says at a time like this?
Come on, then. I'll bite your legs off.
I can take it.
Great power comes great responsibility. We have a hope. Get to the chopper! And leave. Does the flesh wound? I am the father. Behemoth, Goliath, King Kong escapes and meets his greatest foe, the Kong of Steel. A gargantuan duel, unmatched by any battle in history. Thundering 60-foot robot Kong of Steel, creation of the evil Doctor Who, criminal genius who stops at nothing. Kong, once again, dig. King Kong shakes the earth. King Kong fights for life against the copter squadron. Thrills as King Kong battles the Serpent of Mondo Island.
Not his Kong!
Hits himself against the nation's armament. And plunges a beautiful girl into a world of terror. King Kong in a duel to the death.
And we're back for the 18th episode of the Monster Movie Stompdown. We are continuing on with our double Monster Stompdown each month with a Godzilla film and a Kong film, leading up to Godzilla vs. Kong coming out in March 2020. Again, this is Sludge, and of course, I'm joined with my great co-hosts sitting across from me, Mark, and then our boy from Texas,
Ruben.
So we are here for a fun outing. Okay, so we did Destroy All Monsters on the last one. So now again we've decided we were going to skip Son of Kong because we talked about it briefly ish on the Kong episodes. But we're going to jump right to the next Kong film. Actually, in sequence is going to be the Toho and Rankin Boss co-production King Kong Escapes, and that's what we've got today. Super fun movie. I'm going to give a quick rundown of this plot. Nothing super major that you probably haven't seen before in another film. But we've got a few characters who work for United Nations. We've got Commander Nelson, Commander Nomura, and the only other really main hero character I know is Dr. Watson, who are played by all great actors. Rhodes Reason plays Carl Nelson. Akira Takarada, who we all love, has been in tokusatsu since the original Godzilla film. He plays Commander Nomura. The great Linda Miller plays Dr. Watson. And then, of course, the main protagonist, well, there's two other people we got to really mention for the protagonist, but we've got Doctor Who, and no, not the cool British Doctor Who, but like an evil alter ego, I guess, is played by the great Hideo Yamamoto. Now, Hideo, you've seen in a lot of stuff, especially in Japanese filmography, if those have seen like Gorath or Atragon, Matengo. He was in Ghidorah. He was in Godzilla Sea Monster. I think he's in the next film we're reviewing, Godzilla's Revenge. He plays the dude who watches the little boy. But then his last big role, because he did unfortunately pass away several years ago, was in GMK. He was the really cool, the old prophet in the woods. That was Hideo Yamamoto. But he plays Doctor Who, and we'll get into the roles as we talk about the film a little bit more. But I loved his character in this. But so he plays Doctor Who is the main bad guy, and then we got Mia Hama, who played Madame Piranha, which I never really call her Madame Piranha in the English dub movie version, but her name's Piranha, and she's from some unknown country. And the gist of the story is yeah, it's like, and they're probably like, why we're not gonna call her Piranha? That's just odd because she's such a, I mean, she's supposed to be a bad guy, but she's so sweet. It's like you can't take her seriously as a villain. Like this doesn't work.
That's the most dangerous kind. What are you talking?
True.
Yeah, there
The
you
sweet
go.
ones will get you.
So pretty much in the movie, we got the evil mastermind Doctor Who creates a robot version of Kong called Mecha Kong. And Doctor Who, in the plot of this film, is after a new radioactive element called Element X that's in the Arctic. And Madame Piranha and her country are wanting to get Element X. And so they've hired Doctor Who to get this. And so he builds the Mecha Kong to be able to dig out Element X because it's so radioactive that man can't do it. Unfortunately, it's so radioactive that it messes up Mecha Kong, and he can't even do it because it just fries the electronics in it. So they end up going and capturing Kong. Now, Kong, we have a disturbance in the force from one Mark Reagan. So okay, we'll let him do that while we're going to continue on. So, hey man, we've made a lot of episodes without a disturbance, so I guess it's about time. But this is where we run into our United Nations characters. Commander Nelson, Commander Nomura. They are running on some mission thing for the United Nations, and they end up having to make an emergency stop at Mondo Island, which is the island that Kong lives on. And, of course, they go there. We get an awesome throwback scene, introduction to Gorosaurus here, because Kong sees Dr. Watson, falls in love with her, saves her from Gorosaurus. Great fight sequence. But they end up leaving, and Doctor Who ends up showing up and capturing Kong. And his whole point of capturing Kong is to take him to the North Pole, dig for Element X. He ends up escaping and goes to Tokyo, and that's where the final battle with Mecha Kong comes into play. The rest of it's really cool James Bond-esque espionage type, movie, which is really awesome. It really boils down to you've got, the big fight between King Kong and the Mecha Kong, but the real hero and villain of this movie I felt was really Commander Nelson and Doctor Who. Really great fun movie. This movie actually originally, and we've talked about this in Godzilla Sea Monster, Toei Animation, the company that does, Dragon Ball Z, they co-produced with Rankin Boss the King Kong show back in 66 to 69. And of course, in the King Kong show, if you guys haven't seen the animated series, Kong teams up with the Bond family. And the main villain in the show is this Doctor Who makes a Mecha Kong. So Mecha Kong actually makes his first appearance in the cartoon. And so Rankin Boss wanted to make a live action. Toho still had the rights for Kong. They wanted to do a co-production. Toho came up with the idea of King Kong versus Ebra, which Rankin Boss didn't dig because they felt it wasn't enough like the show. They wanted to kind of do a live action movie follow up to the King Kong show. So of course Toho pitched, turned out to Godzilla Sea Monster, and they went back to the drawing board and came up with this film. So Mecha Kong is in this movie, but he actually originated from the cartoon show. So this is super fun, super fun show. And I know Mark asked me earlier, or fun movie, if this was before Mechagodzilla, and yes, Mecha Kong came out before, and is actually who inspired Mechagodzilla, because originally at one point Toho was wanting to make another Godzilla versus Kong film years down the road, I think in the 90s. But they couldn't get the rights. And so they're like, well, we'll just do Godzilla versus Mecha Kong. But they still couldn't even do that because of the likeness of the character. They weren't allowed to use him. So, really fun film. Man, like I'm kind of excited. I don't know where to start because for me, this film is a lot of fun. Like I really enjoy watching. This is almost on a regular viewing basis for me. Especially when it comes to Kong films. This is probably, well, now that Kong Skull Island's out, I do watch it more. But prior to Kong Skull Island, this was probably my most watched Kong film. It really was. I absolutely loved this movie. I also want to mention, too, Kong himself was played by none other than Haruo Nakajima, who was, better known as Godzilla. So I think it's pretty cool that he got to play both legendary monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, he was Godzilla, but he was also Kong, too, for a stint, which is awesome. But super fun film. Like it came out in 1967, if I'm not mistaken. No, I'm sorry. What am I saying? Was it 67 or 68?
67. '67 in Japan. Yeah,
That's right. 67 in Japan, came here in '68.
Right.
And it did fairly well. You know, it wasn't a huge film. I mean, it didn't, break the bank or anything, but I mean, it made what you saw it earlier, over $1 million?
Right at $1 million.
Right at $1 million
Yeah.
for a theatrical run, which was really good for back then, especially for how small the budgets were for these movies. But I mean, it did really well. Of course, it hit the the TV market and the Saturday matinees and things like that. And then it's been released here stateside by Universal, and then Toho released it on DVD on their side. Actually, the one I've got, I don't know if Ruben, you may have it too, is it's the blue. I got the Blu-ray that's got the English and Japanese versions. Man, they did a great job of that one. Came out when they did King Kong vs. Godzilla at the same time, I think.
Really? Because the Blu-ray I have only has the English dub. That's it. It doesn't have both versions.
Really? I'm pretty sure mine's got both. Maybe mine's
a Blu-ray.
Yeah,
it's a Blu-ray, but it's only. I didn't know there was. I didn't know they had to.
I'll have to double check. It may not. I may be completely wrong. Because it's the one that's got the the classic King Kong escapes well, not the original poster, but the second release poster of it. So but man, really good film. I mean, I'm excited because there's a lot of stuff I liked about it. A lot the things I didn't like about it. I definitely will say before we get started on the pros and cons, or the things we liked and didn't like, the Kong suit in this one so much better than King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Yes.
I mean,
that is the first thing. The best thing about it was the suits are way better than Godzilla Kong. Which is the only time it makes an appearance, I guess. Oh yeah, way better.
I mean, even in just like in the face too. I mean, because now his eyes can there's motion with his eyes. When you first see him, he's asleep and he's slowly waking up, and every bit of it just looked so much better.
He blinks.
Yeah, he can blink in this film. He couldn't, very well in the other one.
Yes,
yeah. So, but then to just so for those who watch it, they go and they're like, "Oh, King Kong's from Skull Island." The reason why, because I remember me and Mark were talking about this before the show, things have changed. Like the Mondo Island and then the characters is again because this follows right up from the cartoon show, which actually had 26 episodes. So I mean, it ran for a pretty good little stint. And I've never seen the King Kong show. I don't know if either of you two seen that.
No, I have not.
No, and I started looking for it. Actually, I forgot how I came across that. So I was on the internet somewhere, and somebody started talking about it, and it's out there. You can get it on eBay. You can find it on eBay now. It's probably a bootleg, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, I would love to find it.
That, but yeah,
because I've
seen it on eBay. Yeah,
I've got I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ruben.
No. It's just out there. You just gotta look for it.
Because I've got I've got the whole Hanna-Barbera Godzilla show from the Godzilla Power Hour. So I've got it. I've even got the far superior to the movie, but the Godzilla animated series based off the '98 one, which was so much better, so much better. I could deal with that. That was actually somewhat enjoyable, especially seeing him fight all the monsters and things.
That opinion is shared by a lot of people. There, everybody says just watch the cartoon. It's so much better.
Oh yeah,
and so that is the consensus on the internet consensus.
Yeah, and I think
cartoons,
generally among the fan base, definitely. So yeah, having those, it's like, man, I gotta get the the King Kong show. Like I don't know why I haven't gotten it yet, but I'm gonna hunt that thing down, and it will be mine.
It's out there.
I'm on the hunt.
And this movie did a good job of how can I say it? You use the word fun, and that's exactly what it is. It's a lot of fun. It piques my interest because it was a Rankin Bass and Toho kind of collaboration type of deal, and so anybody hears that name, they know exactly what I'm talking about. They did all those Christmas shows that you catch every year. That to me was it piqued my interest, and I thought that's pretty cool because I know it's a Toho film and it was written over there, but for some reason, just knowing that it's a Rankin Bass, it was involved in it, kind of make the film a little bit even more fun. Maybe I know it sounds crazy, but after learning that, I saw the film differently. I saw the movie differently for some reason,
Right.
and it was a lot more fun to watch.
Man, this is just such a fun movie for me, and I definitely want to mention too when it comes to this movie, the Big Four did this film. You know what I mean? So you got Tomoyuki Tanaka, Inoshiro Honda, Aizu Tsuburaya, and Akira Ifukube. I mean, they all worked on this, and it's definitely got that feel. You know what I mean? It's got that. I mean, you can definitely, feel the rank and boss on it.
The soundtrack alone gives it a. You hear that soundtrack and that and automatically takes you back to that best era around. I mean, those films that came out that Toho did back then. Yeah. I mean, you hear that soundtrack and you can just hear it in the tone and in the composition of the music. You know, it really lends itself to give these movies a good, a nostalgic feel to it. You hear the music, you can't help but think of Godzilla when you hear the music, even though you're watching a Kong film.
Right? Yeah.
And I think
definitely.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And Mark, and you had said something that they used this suit later, right? The Kong suit
come back out in I think 1974 in a program called Go Green Man.
Go Green Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go Green Man.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, now Green Man was a Toho production because Ultraman at the time was such a huge. I mean, especially at this point, the Ultraman series, and by this point, Ultra 7, and maybe Taro had coming out 67, 68ish. It was huge. I mean, it was huge. So Toho wanted to jump on the bandwagon, and of course, now their most famous one and most popular was Zone Fighter, which of course Godzilla crossed over, and so did Ghidorah and Gigan. But they had a couple other ones, and Green Man was one, and God Man was the follow-up series to that. Was their Ultraman type deal. But what's crazy though is that I mean with Green Man and God Man, they were I've only seen like bits and pieces and clips of the shows, but from my understanding is it just never really caught on like Ultraman did. Because I think Green Man only ran for what would essentially been one season. Or 1 year for them, and I'm not even sure how long Godman ran for. But still, so that was pretty cool that they used the Kong suit, which they did that in Ultraman 2 with Godzilla. I mean, episode 2 of Godzilla, episode 2 of Ultraman, they used the Monster Zero suit in that. No, the Godzilla vs. Sea Monster suit. One of those suits. And he played. They just pretty much put a big fin type thing around his neck and called him G Ross, and painted him a little differently.
Well, in Godman, they bring Gorosaurus back.
Oh, did they?
And brought him, and he was in back in '72. He did a 6-part series on Godman.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know that one. That's pretty cool.
Chalk one up for Mark.
Yeah.
He knew something.
Mark's got it. He's finally catching on to the show. He's getting there now.
Yeah, right.
Throwing in the cool little tidbits. Man, and I love Gorosaurus in this film. And who went first on the likes last episode? We've been recording them nonstop, man.
It don't matter.
Well, I'll just go ahead and start it. I was going to run. One of the things I do like about this is one, of course, the fight with Gorosaurus is such a cool throwback to that T-Rex fight from the original. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
But I really like the character of Gorosaurus a lot. Like he's never been a huge role, because we see him from this film. Obviously, you said he went to God-Man, but then we don't really see him again other than Destroy All Monsters. This is the only times we see him. And even in Destroy All Monsters, I want him to have a much bigger role, because I love the character. He's more one of those. Kind of like Angorus, just like an all natural, there's no special powers.
Yeah.
He doesn't blow any ray. He's just the man, like I think of this one when they're fighting, when he jumps up and like kangaroo kicks Kong a couple times. I'm like, dude, like you got it going on.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
Yes.
That was pretty cool. When he did that, that was, and then Kong gets right back up and goes right at him again. He just gives him another kangaroo kick.
Oh yeah. And he
I
really holds his own. I mean, even in Destroy All Monsters, he does a really good job of having his moment to shine, which I thought is really, really cool. So I love that fight. Now, as far as the things, I mean, there's so much I actually like about this movie. because again, for me, it's a lot of fun. I think I remember watching this for the first time. It may have came on Sci-Fi Channel, back when they did a lot of the Godzilla marathons or the giant monster movies on Saturday afternoons after their anime block. I think that's when I probably first saw this one, if memory serves me correct. And man, I just remember it being a ton of fun for me. I just really enjoyed this movie. And then watching it as an adult, I still do. Now, of course, there's things I'm just like, wasn't that great. But as far as things I loved, I loved Kong's suit a lot better than King Kong versus Godzilla. I thought that Haruo, especially him being Kong, was able to. He really, really was able to show a lot of emotion with the limitations of the suit. I think about the scene where he first sees Dr. Watson on the island. And yeah, they've got his eyes, kind of closing or blinking a little bit. But like, if you pay attention, like his head movements and his shoulder movements, like it's almost giddy-ish, like he's excited and he does that several times through the film. One of my favorite things, happened twice, and that was when he went to fight Gorosaurus, and again with Megan E. Kong, is he's got Dr. Watson in his hand and he puts her in a tree, or in the movie he puts her down on the ground, and then he like slowly turns, but then does that quick turn, like his hands up and roars, and he's like, I'm ready to go. Well, I'm like, I thought that was awesome. Like that would really, I was like, yeah, he's in it now, dude. So I liked Haruo as Kong. I thought he played Kong extremely well. I love the suit a lot more. I like the human characters. I kind of like the whole James Bond espionage type deal between the United Nations and this unnamed country and Doctor Who. I thought Doctor Who was a great villain. He honestly is probably one of my favorite villains in the entire Showa library from Toho. Be it Godzilla films or any other ones. I really like Doctor Who. He was just mad. He was just very sadistic almost. I think of the fight when he fights Madame Piranha, ends up killing her. I'm like, dude, like that's a woman, man.
Yeah.
He didn't care. Dude's crazy. And
he did not. He was an excellent villain. I thought.
Man, so good. And they just didn't care. He would do whatever it took, no matter how diabolical it was, to get what he wanted. So I really loved his character, and I like Megan E. Kong. Does Megan E. Kong look as good as Mechagodzilla? No, that didn't come close. But I thought it was a really cool big villain to fight Kong with. I thought it was really awesome because, if you're not going to get Godzilla, I thought it was a pretty cool aspect of Kong fighting himself, what tougher of a fight would you get other than having to fight yourself? And it was really cool. I even liked how they did the final fight on the Tokyo Tower, because that harkens back to the original Kong, with Kong's final fight with the planes on the Empire State Building. So I really liked it, man. This movie was super fun. It had a lot of adventure. The pacing on it was really good. The special effects were pretty good, especially for the 60s. The 60s, it was pretty good. It wasn't on par to Monster Zero, but it was definitely better than Son of Godzilla. It's not hard to do there. But to me, it was such an overall very fun film. And there was a lot of things I did like about it. I love the monster. The snake. We'll get into the dislikes. The snake will be on the dislikes. But other than that, the sets were great. Yasuki Inouye is the set designer and creator for pretty much all of the Showa films, not just Godzilla, but this one too. He did the sets in Gorath, Atragon, H-Man, Matango. He was their set guy. And what's crazy is Inouye only had 1 foot, but worked his tail off. He lost actually a foot in the Pacific Japanese War. But he does such a good job with the sets. And there's so many times in this, especially the North Pole set, I loved how it looked. He did such a good job. So, there's not a whole lot of city sequences except for the end, which again, they did a great job with it as well. But I really liked the sets. Mondo Island looked great. The North Pole area looked great. So not many movies in the Showa era do I go, oh man, the sets are really awesome. But for some reason in this one, Inouye's miniature sets of those main pieces really stuck out to me. Like I feel like he did really, really good. And of course, I get when I watch the movie too, and I will move on to Ruben as far as things you like. When Kong breaks out of the North Pole, because it's that underground base where they're getting Element X, man, I kept going, like I kept watching it, and then you guys got to watch Gorath. It's such a good movie. But when he's coming out and it's all starting to fall in on him, the ground is. Kept going, oh man, we're about to see Maguma. Like, we're not seeing Kong, we're going to see Maguma pop out here because that's almost identical to how it happens. Other than that, I thought they did really, really well. And so, yeah, I mean, it's fun. I love this movie. Those are the things I like. What about you, Ruben?
I liked the special effects. I thought they were great. The story was good. I think it could have been a little bit paced a little bit better, but it wasn't slow, like other movies. So I liked that. I liked Kong's design on this suit. It was awesome. It was. I liked the all the fight scenes were great. The Gorosaurus, and then I guess you'd call that a sea serpent type monster that he fights in there. And I thought that was pretty cool because that even, that snake fight, even though it hadn't happened yet, when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's where maybe, the 1976 Kong when he had that snake fight. Which
that's true.
That's an awesome fight. And I'm like, hey,
that was a lot more brutal.
Inspiration. Yeah, that one was a lot more brutal. Yeah, but I said, hey, that's where the inspiration came from. This is what as far as story goes. This is non-Godzilla films, and from Toho. Toho's done a lot of good stuff though, other than Godzilla. But this is one of my, this is one of the ones that I actually own and I can watch several times over. There was not much I didn't like about it, about this film. Another thing that it goes back, I liked that again that Rankin Bass was involved in it, and I don't know if you guys knew this or not, but the voice of Doctor Who is done by Paul Frees.
Yes.
Which,
yes.
He does by Paul Frees, and you hear it, and I'm like, it's the Meister Burger from Santa Claus Coming to Town. He's the one. I was waiting for him to, forbid toys from being made on Mondo Island.
Well, I think I think he actually dubs most of the male voices in the dubs.
And that's I just read that.
Yeah.
I knew he had done Doctor Who, but then I apparently his nickname is the Man of 1,000 Voices, and he dubbed a bunch of the male voices, if not all of them.
The only one he didn't do was
like man,
Commander Nelson.
Well, that was actually Rhodes.
Yeah.
So that just adds to what I like about the film. The only thing that bothered me about the film is Linda Miller's dub. The voice that, and I don't know what the Japanese. I haven't seen the Japanese version of King Kong Escape, so I don't know what voice they used in the Japanese version. But the voice that they used for the American dub, I don't know. It's a little bit too high pitched for me.
It was
almost like a
it was the same
like a
lady
little girl type thing.
that dubbed for
the Japanese.
Yeah, well, no, but the same lady that dubbed for Dr. Watson or Susan also did Madam X. So she actually pulled double duty on that.
And I think Linda Miller was very upset about that. And because because Rhodes did his dubbed his voice.
Right. I remember reading
she wanted to do the same, but Rankin wouldn't let her.
Which is just weird.
He wouldn't fly her from Japan back to the United States.
That's what bothered me. I'm like, why didn't they just let her dub her own voice?
Yeah, it would match so much better.
When somebody had to dub her Japanese voice onto the Japanese version, I said, why didn't they just let her do it? And now that you mentioned it, Mark, I remember reading that, and I forgot what I was reading. I was reading something on her, and I read that she was upset about that. And I'm like, man, I would be too. Why didn't they let her do that? If they let him do it, why not her? And they didn't want to fly her in from Japan, I guess. Is
right.
What you said, huh?
And then he was like, he was a member of like the Actors Guild, and so There was certain, and
yeah.
she's a model in Japan, and so they just didn't want to fly her back to the States.
Yeah.
Okay.
The union got involved.
Oh yeah.
But
Ruined it all.
that's really, to tell you the truth, that's the only thing that really kind of bothered me. But the rest of the dubbing I thought was okay. You know, it wasn't over the top like you've seen in some of the dubbing and some of the movies we've done.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't nearly as over the top like like I said, Doctor Who's voice almost matched him. You know, when he was talking, and there was no disconnection like there was with the Linda Miller's dub when he was talking. You know, and even with Madam X, Madam Piranha, whatever you want to call her.
Right.
I thought the dubbing was great. I'm like, well, the dubbing is actually good on this one. So really, the only thing that kind of bothered me about the film was that Linda Miller thing. Other than that, this movie is it's one of those. You know how I judge movies a lot of times is like if somebody came over and I wanted to introduce them to something like this, what kind of movies would I pop in? And it, you know, as far as fun goes and silliness and everything, this is I wouldn't even call it silly, but it's, how can I say it? It's you pop it in and it's just fun to watch. Like anyone could enjoy this.
Yeah.
Unless they
definitely.
Just don't really, if they're not just looking to have, you know, this is a good movie to have a good time. You know, if you want to have a good time and pop it in while you have friends over and stuff, this is a good movie to do that. But also it's a good movie if you want to introduce your kid to Kong. You know, to Toho Kong anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't hesitate to throw this one in. I think this would keep a kid's attention throughout, which says a lot about the story. Like I said, there's there's monster action in it, and it would keep. And I use that as a judging. Even when I'm giving it my stomps, I say, okay, well, how would a 10-year-old kid react to this movie? You know, because you know. We're adults and we're big Godzilla fans and all that other stuff, but we have to always remember, hey, this is made, you know, this is supposed to be a kids movie first, you know,
right, yeah.
And other than, I mean, you know, even the death scenes for Gorosaurus and Doctor Who, you know, they're over the top, but they're not overly where a kid will get traumatized or anything like that. I wouldn't think so anyway. I do know the Doctor Who death for the TV version was taken out, but in watching it, I'm like, you know, I've seen worse on.
Yeah, because that
ABC.
was pretty brutal.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal, but you know, it's nothing that I think a kid would freak out on. So, you know, when I'm judging on something, would it be safe to show it to like a 10-year-old kid? And I think it would, and it's a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Kids
so
nowadays.
yeah, there's a lot of things I like. Yeah, there's a lot of things I liked, and like I said, the only thing that really bothered me was with that Linda Miller dubbing. And I would really love to catch her somewhere because I know she hadn't passed away. I don't think so. I think I just saw. No, she's still around. She does conventions, and I'd really like to catch her and meet her because she's kind of memorable, you know.
She is in this role, definitely.
She did a memorable job on this movie, and she's memorable. In fact, they did a good job of casting her and Madame Piranha. I thought they were both they're both memorable roles, and they both did a great job of acting. I know it's dubbed, but the acting comes through that anyway. And you know, you see Linda Miller's turned into like an icon. To me, a lot of people, and I'd love to meet her one of these days, just to say, "Hey, I met Linda Miller."
Yeah, I mean,
that's it. That's
yeah,
one thing.
she's definitely a big fan favorite in the Tokusatsu fan base, especially over here.
Yeah,
definitely. What about you, Mark?
Well, I like the movie. Definitely better than King Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh yeah,
to me. You know, the suits, the King Kong suit was so much better. The robot suit, I thought was real flexible. He moved around and really looked believable. You know, and the acting I thought was very good. All the sets were good. I had no problem with them. You know, but I think also Toho was pretty smart with this because was it such a great Kong movie that it would be remembered years down? If it's a standalone, I don't know. What Toho ends up doing is they have two film festivals, one in the early 70s, one in the early 80s, that they actually group this movie with the Godzilla movies. So they bring the Godzilla fans in, and I think that really helped that movie to last long as this lasts. Just like you say, it's in your regular rotation to watch it.
Yeah.
And it was pretty smart on Toho's part, I think. They reissued it, I think I'm reading here, in 1983 with a big film festival that traveled around, that people got to see it, and came out, where more, I think a lot of people might not have seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, with watching it, I thought it was very good. The acting was good. The script I thought was pretty decent, different from other Toho films, using the espionage and the spies, and,
Right.
and using the animated series line compared to where they were at. So I gave it a thumbs up, thought it was pretty good, and not a whole lot of bad things to say about it.
Yeah, I think, and it is. You think about it. I mean, for Kong, there's probably more people that know about this one than King Kong Lives, or not King Kong Lives. King Kong Lives. Yeah, the sequel to King Kong.
Yeah.
Because that one I think is, and it's definitely harder to find a copy, than King Kong Escape. So I definitely think, this one's went down memorable for a film, because it is a ton of fun. I mean, even looking at the things that I didn't like, it's very minimal. I mean, the things, the plot could have been, not so much the plot as it is the dialogue on some of the dubbing could have been done a whole lot better, that it just didn't make any sense at times. But I mean, my only complaints would be just the little things. I loved how they extended Kong's arms to make him more like a gorilla.
Yeah.
But that limited what the hands could do, in the suit. So, I mean, that kind of drove me a little crazy. Not a little crazy, but I could look over it because it's so much fun. But other than that, my only actual complaint about the movie myself would probably just be the second Kong suit that they used for the water sequences. I felt that, the way that they made it, his head was too big for the rest of it. One, the head looked a little, the face was a lot different than the main suit. I don't like that contrast. I think about, Son of Godzilla. Let's go back to that one. You've got the big main suit, but then for the water sequences, they use the Godzilla versus Sea Monster suit. I don't like when they do that. Or again, Godzilla versus Gigan, you've got the hero suit, and then for the water sequences, they use the Son of Godzilla suit. It's too drastic. That was my only real major complaint in the movie. Which, I mean, the water suit didn't look terrible, but it did not look as good as the main suit. That's really probably my only real complaint about the movie, other than the pacing could be a little bit better. I'm with Ruben on that one, because I feel like when they get to, there's a couple spots when it comes to the human story that it slows down drastically, like too much. You know what I mean? Like they're like, okay, we need to take a little bit to, not even, if you're going to slow down that much, for character development, but just, I think of when Commander Nelson and Dr. Watson and Nomura are at the North Pole base at Doctor Who's, and they're in that, he puts Nomura and Dr. Watson in that room and starts freezing them, letting the Arctic temperatures come in to get Nelson to help him. And it's like he's talking to him, and all of a sudden they're freezing, and then all of a sudden they're playing chess. Like, what?
Yeah.
What's the point of that? Like,
Exactly.
and it's almost like Nelson's like, whatever, I mean, like they'll die for the cause or something like that. They'd really slowed those moments down too much and did something that was kind of really odd.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really
and it throws the timing off. You're kind of like, it kind of staggered it. You're kind of like, I don't know, shock to the system there for a minute. Like, what just happened? You're right.
Yeah, because it's
You're
all
right.
like real super fast and bam, bam, and all of a sudden it's like, all right, let's stop playing a game of chess. I said, no, that don't make any sense right now. I don't understand. I mean, that's really it.
And now that you mention it, even though they're supposed to be arch enemies, that I don't know, what is the word I'm looking for? That disdain wasn't there. They almost like respected it. Well, I'd say Doctor Who respected Commander, but not the other way around.
It almost gives me a feel of kind of like, it makes me think of like Batman and the Joker in the Killing Joke. You know what I mean? Like that at the end where they just kind of walk off and he tells a joke and Batman laughs at it. That kind of demeanor banter between those two is kind of how I felt with Doctor Who and Commander Nelson in this one. Does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what. It's kind of a weird. I mean, it's a weird relationship. And I thought that was kind of funny.
Mm.
And you touched on it earlier about Madame Piranha, where she's not really called that any throughout the film, but that's her character's name. She's the one that's funding this whole, or her government's funding it, and she's supposed to be like some evil. She's Doctor Who's boss, basically. She's the one that's funding Doctor Who, but she never comes across as somebody in charge to me.
No, yeah,
not
she doesn't.
really.
Yeah.
She almost feels like
she doesn't.
she's there just to help the plot move along, gives Doctor Who a reason to be after Element X and after Kong. And then our characters are trapped at, Doctor Who's Arctic base or North Pole base. Well, she's how they escape. You know what I mean? Like there's, again, going back to the pacing. Okay. This is one scene I do complain about a little bit is she gets them out and then takes them to her room for a drink.
Yeah, exactly.
And she's changed clothes and everything. It's like, what is going on? And then Doctor Who comes back in and takes him again. I'm like, oh, well, you got caught. Why didn't you just leave?
So, gotta have a drink
I
first.
thought that was odd too. I'm like, why she take him to her room?
Yeah, it's so weird.
What the heck is this? And
I feel like she could have been a
even when
bigger
Doctor
character.
Who shoots her in the arm, and she's got this little pouty face on. When Doctor Who grazes her in the arm, she's got this little. I'm like, man, you're supposed to be this tough woman from this evil country or whatever. Which, I really don't know. I was trying to figure out what country she could be alluding from, because she always says, "I'm from a certain country."
Yeah, they never say what country.
They never say what country, and I don't know if they did that on purpose or if we're supposed, maybe at the time, in 1967, there was a conflict going on, and who knows? But anyway, she never really comes across as somebody that is in charge. I thought that was funny, and I didn't know if that was just me because.
Oh no, I'm with you there. I felt like she was just the character that just kind of helped the plot move a little bit.
And like I said, you touched on it earlier, and I said, you know what? I'm not the only one that thought that, because I never saw her as that.
No.
And then she ends up being a heroine, I guess you'd say, because she helps them escape, and then she screws up the Robot Kong's controls, and she starts yanking cables and stuff, and it's just very. And even when Doctor Who says, "Well, I'm going to," she says, "You can't send them to attack into the city because millions will die." And he doesn't care.
It's like you're too soft-hearted to be a villain. Like, this is just odd.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my only complaints, really. I mean, it's just those few things.
Yeah.
But it's so much more. But it's such a fun film that it's easy to overlook that stuff. I really feel like it is.
It's just like you were talking about the suits. It's so fun that it really didn't bother me that much. Maybe because I knew about the logistics of it or something. I don't know what it was. That I'm like, that's not. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, no, it's tons of fun. Oh, and the snake.
Not enough for me to say, "Oh, this is." I ain't
go
gonna
ahead,
watch
get it out.
I forgot. I got to mention the snake. That is the worst looking fake snake I've ever seen. Like oh man, it's terrible. Like, I look at it, I'm going I think about I don't know if you guys ever seen The Magic Serpent, where they've got a dragon and then a toad.
It's very. It looks like it was hastily. To me, if you ask me, it was hastily thrown in there.
Yes.
Maybe
yes.
they said, we need one more. We need something else. And they said, hey, why don't we have a serpent? Because they could have had Manda or somebody.
Even Manda. So much for looking.
Now let's go get that old snake out of the box sitting in the corner. We'll use that.
Because
that'll work.
I think, man, that's what ran through my mind. Why? I enjoyed the scene. I thought it was a great fight scene, but it was hastily put together. And then the first thing I thought is, why not Manda?
Yeah,
why
it's
not
been
Manda?
so much better.
I don't know why. If you're going to use Gorosaurus, then point out Manta. That's all I'm saying.
There is an extremely rare giant monster film called The Sea Serpent. That's pretty hard to find. I managed to find it. I think it came out in like the 1984, maybe. But so, and it's not a good movie. Okay, it's just really hard to find, and it's just one of those on my list. The sea serpent in it literally is a sock puppet. Like it, I mean, it looks pretty good. I will give them credit considering the fact that this is a sock puppet. With the makeup and stuff they put in the sock, but it's a sock puppet. Okay, none. Period. All right, we gotta state that. That thing looked so much better than the snake in King Kong Escapes. Like it's ridiculous. So yes, I had to get my complaint on that one out. Other than that, I mean, he still tears that snake apart. Not as cool as he does in King Kong, the '76 remake, which is just brutal what Baker does to that one. I do want to mention, I totally forgot to mention it earlier because we talked about Haruo being Kong. Hiroshi Sakita is who played Gorosaurus and Mecha Kong in this. And of course, we know Hiroshi because Hiroshi is who played Godzilla and Son of Godzilla. Other than the water scenes, which Haruo did. But Hiroshi was also Ebra in Godzilla Sea Monster. He was Sanda in War of the Gargantuas. So I mean, we've seen him a lot, and it's really cool because that's one of the things I like is anytime you see those two go up against each other, again, Godzilla Sea Monster, War of the Gargantuas, King Kong Escapes, you see Haruo and Hiroshi, fighting in their respective monster suits. They do a great job together. I love I mean, especially you go back to like War of the Gargantuas. I mean, that fight sequence between those two is so good.
Yeah.
And I think that
there's a chemistry there.
Yeah, and I think that chemistry really came together with this film too, especially when you knowing he played Gorosaurus and he also played King Kong. They do so well together. So I don't think Hiroshi did anything else past this. Well, I think his last two films were, as far as suit acting, was King Kong Escapes and Destroy All Monsters, which he played Gorosaurus in both. And but it was, man, he was a great actor, and I think he kind of really went, unless you're a huge fan like us, or some of the people listening, you really don't know, who a lot of these other suit actors are that play these other monsters. And I think Hiroshi was one of those ones that really kind of went unnamed, that deserved a lot more credit than what he got because he played great characters in these movies. So yeah, had to get it up there. I forgot about that. Because I felt so bad about the snake. I was like, I can talk about something good. Let's get Hiroshi in here. Let's drop him in. So, but yes, I mean, that's King Kong Escapes. I mean, definitely recommend it. I mean, we all three of us loved it. We all recommend this film. Is it going to be your absolute favorite giant monster film from Toho or this genre? Probably not. But it is such a good fun watch. I mean, it's enjoyable. I mean, it's absolutely enjoyable. It's a great Saturday matinee film. It's so.
That's a good description. That's a perfect description.
Well, and actually, I think when this came out to the theaters, what was the movie it was with? A Don Knotts movie.
Yeah,
it was a double feature.
The Western.
What is that movie?
Shakiest Gun.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a great day right there. Let's go get some popcorn, watch some Don Knotts and some Kong throw around.
Exactly.
I would have loved to have been a kid at that time. That would have been awesome. I loved Don Knotts. I mean, the Ghost of Mr. Chicken is probably one of the best movies.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, the shakiest gun in the West, Don Knotts, and
great movie.
It double featured with that. So.
That is. I haven't watched that one in years. I'm about to watch that.
I forgot that.
That is a really good movie.
Yeah,
that's definitely in the top 3 for Don Knotts for me.
Yeah,
Shakiest Gun in the West. That's really good. But the only two that would go above that would be The Incredible Mr. Limpet.
Yes,
and then number 1, The Ghost and Mr. Chicken. Like
that's
just
Ghost and Mr.
great
movie.
Dude.
Yeah. That is just, oh my God! I can watch that movie over and over again.
Absolutely amazing.
It came out. Was it last year, year before? Best Buy had the Blu-ray come out. It was a Best Buy exclusive. Then I went out and bought it that first day it came out. I said, I'm gonna go get it.
Oh man, I love it. So good, so good.
It's just one of my favorites. Yeah,
and everyone's like Don Knotts, Andy Griffith. I'm like, no, Don Knotts. These 3 food movies. Like Andy Griffith is great, but this is amazing.
Yeah, Don Knotts is just. He's just. Matter of fact, I was in San Antonio visiting RJ up in college, and one of the local channels had Three's Company on. And
cool.
it was the Don Knotts era when Don Knotts played, Mr. Furley. Oh my God, I just laughed from beginning to end because of him. He's just a classic. Yeah. So yeah, that was a good pairing with this one with the Shakiest Gun in the West. Oh, perfect pairing.
Oh yeah, without question. So we gave this one. What did we come up with? We gave this a 3 out of 5.
Yes.
Mark gave it a 3. Ruben gave it a 3.5. I gave it a 3.5. So we come up with a 3 out of 5. Such a fun film. I mean, just a super fun movie. I mean, it ain't going to make it the top of your favorites list. I mean, it may. Especially for Kong fans or something like that. And if it does, rightfully so, because it's a very, very, very fun film to watch. It's something I enjoy a lot.
Especially if it's a Saturday matinee movie type, like you said, that's a perfect description. That is one of the movies you want to throw in. I always go back to my all-time favorite, Godzilla Monster Zero. That's Saturday matinee movie.
Yeah,
right there, along with this. If you're going to throw that together, like watching those two movies back to back would be a lot of fun. A lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, absolute blast. And like I said, this one is. I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just fun. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's great. I think you may even be able to watch the whole movie on YouTube. I'm pretty sure. I guess it's not too hard to find nowadays.
It popped up because I was looking for the Japanese version, and it popped up when I did a search. It popped up with a whole bunch of stuff on YouTube. For the Japanese version, I didn't look for but a bunch of Japanese versions came up on it. So I'm sure it's out there on YouTube.
Oh yeah, it's got to be.
And actually, the Blu-ray is dirt cheap on Amazon, and if you can, I rarely see it locally, but I think at Amazon it's $10 or something like that.
Oh man, and that's worth it. I mean, for a fun film that you will. I mean, guaranteed. I mean, if you're not a fan of this genre, you're not going to like it. But if you're a fan of this genre, that's totally worth a purchase. Totally worth. I mean, because you'll get your viewing out of it for sure. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie. It's just an absolute blast. Normally for the most cases when I watch the movies or we watch them, because we've got, a lot of these, we've got multiple versions, at least through the Showa era. We all three try to watch a different version that's available. I mean, I've watched this one so many times, both sides, Japanese and English, that I'll just watch it either way. And I think I watched this one, the English version of this one most recently, but I watched the Japanese version like a month ago. I mean, it's a good fun movie.
Yeah.
My youngest son, Gavin, he loves it. He loves seeing Kong and Gorosaurus fight. So it's good. Y'all definitely got to check it out. 3 out of 5 stars. Like I said, it's a pretty good film. Definitely enjoyable. You guys got anything else you want to say about the film?
I'm good.
No, I'm good. I think about said everything I needed to.
Sweet. So, well, right on. Well, so that's the next Kong film on the list. So when we come back next month, the next Godzilla film will unfortunately be Godzilla's Revenge, or All Monsters Attack, whatever you want to call this pile of garbage.
The funny thing about that movie is I was watching this one, and my wife passes by, and she made a comment like, "This is a pretty silly movie," and I'm like, "Just wait till
you ain't seen nothing yet." Like,
you ain't seen nothing yet.
Man.
Yeah.
So precursor to next month's first show. This one's going to take a lot to get through.
Or the next, the next episode, which is actually it's going to be this month. But I'm like, just wait. Yeah, just wait till we do, because that's our next one, and then of course we do King Kong. So.
Man,
just wait till the next one.
I'm stoked. I'm stoked about it. Yeah. So listeners, the next episode is going to be Godzilla's Revenge, and then our Kong film for that month is going to be King Kong, the 1976 remake.
Right.
And I actually watched that again just the other day. I want to say it was I've been dealing with gallstones. For those who cheat me on Facebook, I had a really bad gallbladder attack last Thursday night. Lasted almost 13 hours. Well, during that, it was horrible. During that horrific experience, I actually ended up watching the King Kong remake, the 76 remake. And man, I was just like, man, it's good. I'm excited about that one. Like, I am pretty stoked about that.
Yeah, it's all my thing, but for me, it's just like, that's my that's part of my childhood right there.
Oh man,
Kong helped you through
And
your
when it
emergency, right?
came
He
out, I
did.
was what 10? I was 11? No, 10. I just turned 10. 76. I just turned. And I was just super excited about it. And
It's so much
I think
fun.
I mentioned in a previous episode, there was just the marketing for that movie was just incredible. It was just everywhere, all kinds of stuff. And you know, it was Dino De Laurentiis, and you know, back then, you know, his name was big. The fact that he did it was you know, always made it even better. Everybody was so excited about it. I remember buying magazines with, you know, the making of, you know, Kong, the making of King Kong, and all. It was just everywhere. So I'm pretty stoked for it.
Oh yeah, and it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Now I will say though, you know, if we're going to talk about Dino real quick, it was 4 years later after Kong, he does Kong in '76, that probably my favorite Dino De Laurentiis film came out. Y'all know what that is? 1980.
I do not.
Dino De Laurentiis. Can
Yeah.
anybody? No? Come on.
I'm sorry.
Flash.
I'm sorry. What was
Ah! Yes,
Oh, no.
Flash Gordon.
Oh.
That is like, I love that movie, and that's a Dino De Laurentiis film. And
that? Oh,
that's-
are you kidding me?
Oh,
Flash Gordon is dude.
dude,
Man, I love Flash Gordon.
it's so
Absolutely
good.
love it.
I mean, he
Yeah.
that dude's got a resume a mile freaking long.
You know,
I mean,
the only thing that killed me on that film was when the little cheerleader sing "Go Flash Go." It makes my skin crawl when I see that. It is just horrible. I can't stand it. It's like, oh,
it's so good. I mean, and I'm stoked about it because one episode we'll talk about a lot about Dino because Dino's got a huge history. I mean, he's done. Obviously,
he does.
with Kong, Flash Gordon, Orca.
Yeah.
He did Halloween 2. He's done Beyond the Reef. He did Halloween 3 too, but we'll forgive him for that. Dune, Conan the Destroyer. What else is in his repertoire? I mean, he's Manhunter was one. Man, there's another one I'm trying to think of that was really, really cool. It's uncredited. It's a movie he was uncredited for, and I always, when I talk about him, I'm like, oh, he did this. Death Wish, Charles Bronson. He was actually an uncredited producer on that movie. So
great movie.
Oh, really?
So,
Wow.
yep.
Great movie.
So
I
good.
just watched. I think it was on. I don't know. It was on Amazon Prime or Netflix. It was a documentary on. I'm drawing a blank. It was Flash Gordon. Good Lord. Anyway, it went over that whole movie, you know, and how Dino Dino De Laurentiis made it, and how he had conflicts. It was actually a great movie.
I'm telling you, dude,
A great documentary. Yeah.
He's one of the best
trying to remember
producers
the-
in movie history. I mean, unbelievably. I mean, and he did several Stephen King films too. Cat's Eye, Silver Bullet, Maximum Overdrive. He did those, and of course, King Kong Lives. He did. Army of Darkness. That's right. He was also executive producer for Army of Darkness.
then, yeah.
So, but yeah, so I'm stoked about that one. That one's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to make up for the next episode.
Yeah.
Did he do Hannibal
He did the entire
series?
no, not the TV series. He did the movie. He did those last several films. Like he did Hannibal. He did
Red
Dragon, and I think he did Hannibal Rising. I think that was one of his last films. Was Hannibal Rising?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
And the all famous
And,
Barbarella.
Oh yeah, I forgot
We'll talk
about
about that. Just let that slide on
Damn it
by.
over here. Dude. I mean, that the '70s and '80s era for Dino was just phenomenal. But all right,
Yeah.
so
And it
yes,
was- and the name of that documentary, so in case anyone, because it was really good. It's Life After Flash. That's what it's called. It's on
Life
Sam
After
Jones.
Flash, dude. I'll totally watch.
Yeah,
that.
and it's I don't know if you guys have seen that but it was really because it goes through like his. It's Sam Jones, and he goes through this, you know, what he's doing now. You know, and everybody knows now. You see Sam Jones, and he's Flash. That's
Yep.
it.
Oh yeah, period.
He's Flash. You know, even when he did the Ted movie, he was Flash.
Oh yeah, he's
You know,
he
he is
well, a lot of
Flash.
people don't realize,
And-
may not realize this. I mean, there was I don't know how many Flash Gordon movies before that 1980 film. I mean, you're looking, in the 50s. I think even back to the 40s. I mean, there was tons of Flash Gordon Goes to Mars and
Yeah, you know, I've mentioned to you guys Friday nights was always like a creature feature night, and it wasn't even a local channel; it was cable channel 8, and it was out of Houston. So they'd show like Dracula, you know, kind of like Svengoolie does now.
Mhm.
But before they show the movie, they give it would be a short, and it would be something like like Sam Smith Specialties, I think it was called,
Uh-huh.
or they'll get a Flash Gordon short. It'd be one of those serials
Yeah. Yeah.
from the 30s and 40s. And so every Friday, they do it in a row. So like you'd catch it, and then it'd be a cliffhanger, of course. And then find out next week what happens to Flash Gordon. It would be like I guess it'd be about 10-15 minutes right before the movie started, just like you would like at a theater. So they would show that Flash Gordon episode, and then they go into the Frankenstein or Dracula, whatever
Right.
it is that was going to go on that night.
Yeah.
And so I watched all of those as a kid. They were really fun. So when they redid Flash, I was excited.
Oh man, I love that movie.
And I was so excited to see what they were going to do with it. And I it was '80. I was already a teenager,
See,
but I was there. I went and saw it, several times over.
and that goes to show you how much fun King Kong Escapes is, because it takes us to Flash Gordon every time.
There you go.
That's where it goes. But,
Oh, Lordy.
all right. Well, man, again, thank you guys so much for listening. So just keep up with us next month as we continue on with the double episodes. Again, next month we've got Godzilla's Revenge, and then King Kong, the 1976 Dino De Laurentiis Flash Gordon remake. We're just going to throw a flashback in there again because it's totally worth it. But again, thank you guys so much for listening to the show. We have so much fun doing this. Definitely, if you guys have not seen these movies we review, definitely check them out. They're a lot of fun, tons of fun. And then, of course, we're going to continue this dual show per month up until Godzilla vs. Kong comes out in March 2020. And then after that, we're going to start mixing it back up again. We'll continue on with the Godzilla series, but we'll alternate some other giant monster films or monster films. And if there's any you guys want to see us review in the future, let us know. Shoot us a message on Facebook, comment on it, one of these, and we'd love to do them. I actually thought about some really good ones the other day, and I'm like, oh man, it'd be great to do this, and this. So I like some ones that are really bad. Like one of those ones that you just can do nothing but make fun of. I got like 5 or 6 written on a piece of paper. And I'm like, yeah, we're gonna hit this, and this stuff. And I think Ape was one of them. We had talked about that, like in a King Kong episode. That would be a real good, terrible movie to watch. But all right, you guys got anything else?
Nope, we're good.
No, we're good.
Awesome. Well, man, again, thank you guys so much. This is Sludge.
And Mark.
And Ruben.
Y'all have a good night.
The flesh wound.
I am the father.